4 months of case interviews. 1 offer for every 100 who try. You get it. 6 months later, a partner presents your deck to a $9 million client and never says your name. That's the job. It never stops being the job. That moment is 6 months away. Right now you're 22, walking into orientation with 209 other new hires in the same auditorium this year, the largest incoming class the firm has ever hired, which the recruiting slide calls exceptional growth, and the analysts around you call, quietly, more competition than last year's class ever had. $85,000, plus a $10,000 signing bonus that gets clawed back if you leave before your first anniversary, a clause you read twice before signing and never mention out loud. The firm bills your time to clients at $320 an hour. Once you count the actual weeks, most running past 70 hours, you're closer to $41 an hour yourself, a gap that is not hidden. It's printed on the utilization report you build yourself and hand to a partner who reads it in 4 seconds. 6 months in, you sit in the back row of a client meeting and watch that same partner present a market entry deck as his own analysis, in his own voice, to a client worth $9 million a year. Slide 14 still has the data error you caught and flagged 3 days ago. Nobody corrected it. You know, watching him gesture at the wrong number with total confidence, that you could raise your hand right now and fix it in front of the client. And you also know, with equal certainty, what that would cost you before the meeting even ends, so you stay silent and watch the client nod along to a number you know is wrong. About 6 in 10 analysts clear the 18-month mark to promotion roughly on schedule. The other 4 wait a full extra cycle, and nobody tells them why they're waiting, only that the engagement manager 2 levels up will decide it in a room none of you are ever invited into. That decision is worth $38,000, the exact distance between this rank and the next, and you will likely never learn whose word actually moved it. Your cohort splits, unofficially, within the first month, into people who ask questions in the group Slack and people who don't. And you notice, watching the thread, that the ones who stop asking questions by week 6 are the ones who get staffed on the better projects by week 8, a correlation nobody names, but everybody eventually tests for themselves. You think about saying something to the partner after the meeting ends, catch him in the hallway with the door still half open, and ask instead, carefully, whether he wants the corrected version for the follow-up deck. He says, "Sure, thanks," already looking at his phone, and you understand, walking away, that this is the version of speaking up this rank actually allows. 123,000 base. Target bonus, 18%, landing near 145,000 total if the year goes well. The billable rate the firm charges for your time jumps to $410 an hour. Your own pay barely moves, absorbed by longer engagement cycles and a new, unspoken expectation. Associates stop only producing slides and start managing the analysts who do. Promotion to this rank isn't announced individually. It's read off a single ranked list at a closed partner meeting. 7 names for what turns out to be 4 open engagement manager seats the following year. And everyone at this rank knows the list exists, even though nobody has ever seen it. You find out where you rank by which projects you get staffed on next. A signal nobody explains and everybody reads. At 11 at night, you review a model built by a first-year analyst on your team, find an error that would have embarrassed all of you in front of the client tomorrow, fix it yourself without telling him, and let him present it clean the next morning. You recognize the shape of what you've just done before you're even back at your desk. That gap between what you bill and what you keep does not meaningfully shift until you stop being billed by the hour at all. The next threshold changes that math for the first time in your career. Engagement manager, $192,000, and the end of being billed like inventory. 2 of the 7 names on that closed list this year are people you started with, in the same auditorium, on the same signing day, and you find yourself doing the arithmetic you swore you wouldn't. 5 of you didn't make the cut, and the firm has never once explained, to any of the 5, what the other 2 did that they didn't. You start, that same month, tracking your own hours against the $410 rate in a private spreadsheet nobody at the firm has ever asked to see, not out of grievance exactly, more out of the same instinct that made you read the clawback clause twice, a need to know the real number underneath the one on your pay stub. In a Tuesday steering committee, a principal you've never worked with directly interrupts your read on a client's risk exposure, mid-sentence, and asks, in front of the client, why your team's timeline assumes a regulatory approval that historically takes 90 days instead of the 60 you've built in. You don't have a clean answer ready. You improvise one, badly, and spend the rest of the meeting aware that the principal is still watching you the way you once watched a partner present your own slide as his. 192,000 base. Bonus target 22%. Total comp near 234,000. None of which explains why you're still replaying the meeting on the drive home. The firm stops billing your hours directly and starts billing your team's hours through you. A shift that sounds small and restructures your entire week. You're in the client meetings now. You don't build the slides. Client relationships get scored now, on a scale nobody explains fully, and the engagement managers who keep an account through 3 consecutive renewal cycles become, quietly, people the client trusts independently of whichever partner's name sits on the cover page. That trust is worth, at the next threshold, an additional $88,000 a year, because principal pays $280,000 flat. And it is also, you learn slowly, the only metric at this rank that survives a bad quarter. Roughly a third of engagement managers plateau here for good, not from underperformance exactly, but from never quite building an account a client would defend if the firm tried to reassign it. You start keeping a private, deliberately vague mental list of which of your own accounts would survive that test. And you notice, some months, that the list gets shorter instead of longer, for reasons you can name and reasons you can't. Later that same week, over the first drink either of you has had together, the principal from the steering committee tells you, almost as an aside, that she once froze in an identical meeting at your exact rank, and that nobody warned her either, and you spend the rest of the night unsure whether that story was meant to comfort you or simply to explain, calmly, that the interruption was never really about the 60 days. The firm employs just under 4,000 consultants across its offices this year, a number you learn not from any onboarding deck, but from a recruiter's slide left open on a shared screen during a lunch. And the engagement managers in the room do the same quiet math you did in the auditorium years ago, dividing that number down toward however many partner seats actually exist. You think about that conversation more than you expect to, mostly on the drive home, and you decide, without fully deciding it out loud, that if you ever sit where she was sitting, you'll say the warning part first and skip the part where you pretend it wasn't a warning. 280,000 base. Bonus target 30%. Total comp near 364,000. And the first rank, where the compensation structure openly admits billable hours are no longer the point. Principals are evaluated on business development, the firm's clean phrase for bringing in new client revenue, a line that did not exist on your job description until the exact day you crossed this threshold. You still work 70-hour weeks. The hours just move from execution to origination. On a Tuesday, you build a pitch deck almost identical in structure to the one a business analyst built for you 6 years ago, except the client meeting at the end of it is yours to walk into alone. You could, easily, hand the actual client-facing slide build to the associate on loan to you this quarter and let her think she's simply supporting you, the exact quiet trade every rank below you has run on since your own first year. You don't. You build it yourself, badly at first, staying 2 hours later than you would have otherwise, because you decided at some point during the engagement manager years that you were not going to be the person who does this to someone younger, even once, even when nobody would ever know the difference. Principals who bring in $1.5 million or more in new annual revenue get fast-tracked toward partner in 18 to 24 months. Principals who hit every billable target but never originate new business stay at this rank for 4, 5, sometimes 6 years, comfortable, well paid, and quietly understood inside the firm as people who will not advance further, a status nobody states directly, and everybody eventually notices about themselves. You clear $1.5 million in new revenue this year, on your own, the slow way, and the reward is partner, $450,000, most of it no longer guaranteed. A managing director calls you in March with a lateral offer to a boutique firm, better title, 20% more money, a smaller book you'd build from nothing. You take the meeting out of curiosity more than intent, and turn it down 2 weeks later, not because the offer is bad, but because you've just started, for the first time, actually liking the specific shape of the work you're doing here, which surprises you more than the offer did. The associate on loan to you that quarter finds out, months later, secondhand, that you built the slide yourself rather than handing it to her, and says nothing about it directly, only starts, from then on, showing you drafts a full day earlier than she's required to, which you take, correctly, as the only form of thanks either of you would know how to give the other. You sign engagement letters now. You sit across from CFOs who assume, correctly, that your name on the cover means the firm's full weight stands behind whatever comes next. In your second year at this rank, an associate on loan to you finishes a deck at 10:30 the night before, and you present it Monday morning, in your own voice, to a client worth $6 million a year, and you catch yourself mid-sentence, noticing that you don't feel anything doing it, that the discomfort you deliberately kept alive as a principal has gone somewhere you can't quite locate anymore. $450,000, but the structure underneath is nothing like any rank below it. Roughly $180,000 is a fixed draw, paid monthly like a salary. The remaining $270,000 is a share of firm profit, calculated at year-end, moving with the firm's performance rather than your own hours. For the first time in your career, working more hours personally does almost nothing to the number. What moves it is your book of clients and how efficiently the teams under you convert that revenue into profit instead of overhead. Partners managing under $8 million in annual client revenue stay partners comfortably for the rest of their careers. Partners whose book crosses $15 million become eligible for the final threshold, and the firms most people have heard of, McKinsey, Bain, BCG, run this same math internally with the same brutal shape at the top. Of every 100 analysts, a firm like this hires in a given year, something close to one will ever wear the title senior partner. At a partner offsite that spring, someone from a rival firm mentions, over dinner, that BCG's own internal data puts the odds of an incoming analyst eventually making partner somewhere in the low single digits, and the table takes it in without reacting, a fact everyone already half knew and nobody had ever said in a room with this many partners in it before. There is no one left above you to absorb what goes wrong, the way you once quietly fixed things for other people at 11 at night without ever being asked to. The base draw moves to $240,000, largely beside the point, because senior partners are paid primarily through an equity stake in the firm itself. Typically 1 to 3%, depending on tenure and book size. On a firm generating $400 million in annual revenue at an 18% partner-level margin, 1% of that pool runs close to $720,000 a year, and the senior partners with the oldest, largest books clear well past $2 million. You sit on the promotion committee this year for the first time, reviewing a ranked list of 7 principals for 4 open partner seats, and you recognize one name from a Tuesday steering committee 11 years ago, the engagement manager who once improvised badly under a principal's interruption and never quite closed the gap after that. She didn't make the list. You notice, reading the file, that her client retention scores were excellent every single year, and that the $1.5 million origination threshold is the only number on the page that actually decided anything, and you say nothing in the room, exactly as nothing was said to you either, and the meeting moves to the next name. Your own equity stake took 11 years to reach its current size, longer than 2 of your peers who made this rank the same year you did, and when you finally asked a retiring senior partner, off the record, Why the timeline had varied so much between people with nearly identical books, he told you, without much ceremony, that the committee had simply always trusted some people's numbers a little faster than others, and declined, when you pushed, to say why. 22 years after the auditorium, with 209 other analysts in it, you learn the number the firm never puts on a recruiting slide. Across McKinsey, Bain, and BCG combined, something close to 1 in 100 analysts hired in any given class will ever make partner, and fewer than that will ever see senior partner at all. You did. The associate who fixed your model at 11 at night, 9 years into your own career, the one you specifically chose not to let take silent credit, made engagement manager 2 years ago and is, by every account you've heard, doing well. You think, sometimes, that your refusal to run the trade even once might be the reason your own path from principal to partner took 3 years longer than your cohort's fastest riser, a man who never once hesitated to let someone else's work carry his name, and who sits 2 seats down from you on this committee today. You have never been able to prove that connection, and you have stopped trying to. Tonight, on the 4th floor, an analyst you have never met is still at her desk, fixing a data error in a deck that will have someone else's name on it by Monday, and you know, in a way the recruiting slide will never say, that the firm's real selection mechanism was never the billable hour. It was always this exact moment, repeating itself at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday, deciding which one in 100 of you was built to stop noticing. You close the file on the engagement manager who didn't make this year's list, and open your calendar for tomorrow, which starts, as it has for 11 years now, with a 7 a.m. review of a junior team's overnight work, the same hour a partner once used to review yours.